Hey, 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 broadcasters, oil runners, come on now. Let's welcome in Dave Alvarez today. My name is Kristen Love, your host for today. He is a character artist. He has done so many things that we will find out. I will let him tell you what he's done. I've read what he's done, but you'll be shocked on what he's done because I was shocked when I found out. But either way, we're going to find out who he is, where he's from, what he does, and everything. Okay. So if you want to be a oil runner, be on a, we're just sitting here chatting. Okay. You can contact me at oilrunnersservices@gmail.com. Yeah. Yeah. Oilrunnersservices@gmail.com. Um, we don't troll on this page or anything like that. We are here to help inspire, learn, and grow. We've had so many interesting people on here, and I know you have a story to be able to tell. We are helping the younger folks. We are helping the older folks, whatever it is. We're just teaching, loving, caring, and everything. So no trolling, please. Okay. Please don't troll them. Please don't troll the page. Please don't do all that. But please support, like, comment on my stuff, on their stuff. We'll do that for you too. We are here to support the supporters family. All right. So with that being said, we will let him come in and we'll just sit here and chat. So go get your coffee, your drinks, your food, enjoy, and happy birthday, happy anniversary, and just enjoy your day. Enjoy your family as well. All right. Welcome, Mr. Dave Alvarez. How are you doing?
All good. How are you? Thank you for
Uh,
inviting me.
no problem. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm just clicking off all this stuff. Um, yeah, so we wanted to know about who you are, where'd you come from, what you do, how'd you get into all this stuff? And I love the background. I mean, this is all of our nostalgia here. So you're the man that did it.
Well, kind of, I'm kind of taking the baton, but it's not that like I originally made it, But this is all the
Mhm.
stuff that
So
inspired
how
me.
did, okay. So what was your work? Like, what
My
did you
work,
do?
I wear many hats in what I do. I'm mainly a character artist, but I do storyboards. I illustrate comics and books. I'm a character designer, visual developer. I work on comics, television series, and movies. So animated movies, of course. And that's basically it, I think.
Okay. Which ones did you do? Like that we know of?
Well, mostly I've done work for the Looney Tunes. I work on almost every show that you see from, I don't know, 2009, 2010 forward. I've been working on the Looney Tunes show, Wabbit, the new Looney Tunes cartoons, uh, the Space Jam New Legacy movie. I was a visual developer there. I work at Disney as
Wow.
well. I work on the Proud Family as a storyboard artist and character artist for a lot of the stuff that they do. I work with their consumer products department. It's called Disney Creative Group. Um, my job is to keep the characters in model and create new illustrations for whatever they do, merchandise, model sheets, and everything that they have to do with it. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you end up? Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Mhm.
As a kid, was this like one of your dreams to do? Was to
Well,
do that? Or
basically, yeah, you can say that it's part of everything, and been multitasking, but it's I had different goals in my mind, but that has been one of them. And but yeah, you can say that it's something that I carry on as a kid.
wow. And so, I mean, I know art is like passions. So, like, obviously, you can draw everything possible. But how'd your parents feel about that? Like, as a kid, did they think you were gonna go for it or no? Or like, what's the deal? They put you in school and
Well, I was being honest about that. I grew up in a family of factory workers. They had nothing to do with entertainment or drawing or anything like that. They didn't understand it at all. The only thing they know about movies was that they presented some in in the theater, and you can rent it some in the VHS store, and that's it. In the video club. But they were very thoughtful about this, and I think up to this point, my mother still doesn't know what I do. And this is something that I've done on my own on the road, and trying to figure my way to where I am right now. So yeah, it is what it is.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not saying that they were lovable. So they were, it's just that they weren't they didn't understand. That's just to say.
yeah, no, that's understandable. Because you said you were from Puerto Rico, so it's
Hmm.
a
Yeah,
different time period too. All that like you got it.
yeah. It's a different time period. It's a different type of culture, just to say that, because I grew up in a small town called Manatee,
Mhm.
and it's one of those small towns that if you don't wear it, you don't eat it, it doesn't work at all. So you're trying to explain what do you do? It's like, well, what do you do? Do you work in the food factory? Do you work in a factory? Building or in a medicine factory,
Mhm.
or or something else. I just work in a clothing store. Otherwise, they wouldn't get what I do. But it has been a difficult way up, but interesting road to walk.
So did you work in any of those places before you like as you were growing up before you got into anything big? You ended up
Well, yeah,
just went straight.
no, my father used to work he had a truck. So we
Mhm.
had to wake up very early in the morning just to pick up some, he had to make like 12 travels back and forth. And I used to sit on his side and help him on the. I learned how to drive a truck before learning to drive a car, just by
Okay.
default. And yeah, but I had to work when I was 16 because he lost his job, and money needed to be entered the house. So he signed up for
Mhm.
me to work. I work in a print shop now,
Okay.
and it was closer to what I do, but it's not as close as I would have hoped because it was everything technical. I was all the time working in a dark room, revealing negatives and positives that we're going to use for print job, and that's how it went. But yeah, it's like I had to do all this. I work in a video club in Blockbuster Video actually. So
Hey, good old Blockbuster.
yeah, good old Blockbuster. I was there. So, but yeah, I've done a lot of stuff before doing what I do. So, but it was very early when I was a kid. So,
Okay. All right. So like that print shop, did that would you say that it helped you like those little nuggets that they showed helped you with your career now or
it
like
did, it did because it, as with any job, it's not until you're there that
Mhm.
you have every profession romanticized, and you think that at some point, everything is going to be easier than it looks, and I learned a lot from that because I learned how it's done, how I can make my book, what do I need to do, uh, things that I didn't know. So I learned the technical part of everything. If I
Mhm.
were to work with this in the future, it was easier for me because I know what to do from the very beginning. So it was helpful in
Right.
some point.
Okay. So who was the person that came through to get you your first gig on that end? They coming into your
Well, then there was a local newspaper.
Mhm.
They didn't, the town was called Manatee and the newspaper was called El Manatee, which
Right.
it was a no-brainer. But,
Yeah.
but anyway, we had a local newspaper going on. So once they did that, uh, they started looking for people to collaborate and stuff like that. So I send them a letter and say, "Hey, I make comic strips. Uh, do you have comic strips? I can make you some." So I remember that day. Remember that my family doesn't understand this very much. The the editor went to my home. We were literally, I think we were washing the dog on the backyard, and this person was on the front porch, and my mother was like, "There's some guy there, looking, it's calling your name. Why is he calling your name?" I said, "I don't know. Let me see." I went there, talked to the guy. I'm the editor of El Manatee, and I wish I could. I like your proposal. So, is there a way that you can make those comic strips for us? I was, wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, of course, let's do it. I was very, very into it. The only thing is that I forgot to ask for money. I just said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, okay, fine." So I started working on my comic strips. I told my mom that I was gonna do that, and she was the one who was going, "Oh, really? How much are you gonna earn from that?" And I was like, "Oh, you mean like money? I have to ask." So I made my first comic strips there, and I remember he was very happy, and I was still on school when I was doing that,
Mhm.
and some guys learned that I was the one who was doing those comic strips. "Hey, we have a guy who does comic strips," and I was like, "Yeah," and I'm not earning money from it. So, but so I went one day after school. I visited the newspaper, and he was very happy. "Hey, you're getting some fans, and what you do? Is there a way that I can earn money from this?" So
Yeah.
I remember that his face went like, uh,
Oh,
what do you mean?" And it's, well, I'm not. Can I earn something? Like, can you pay me? So I said, "How much do you want?" I didn't know how much to ask. I know that I asked like $10 or something like that for each comic strip or something like that. But it was very ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I was
mm.
fired the next day. So
Oh, snap.
yeah, I was fired the next day. But things happened serendipitously, and another newspaper rose up. It was called El Norte. Yeah, and I went to them this time saying, "Hey, I need a job. I can do comic strips for you guys." So I went there, and they actually paid me for doing that. So that was my first paid gig after that.
Lesson learned. The building block was lesson learned. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
happened.
don't offer pay, then they ain't gonna pay. That's gonna
No, they weren't gonna pay. After that, I think the newspaper broke or something like that. They went into bankruptcy and disappeared. El Norte
well, no
continued.
wonder they did.
Yeah, things that happen,
Yeah, so you gained some fans, they knew about it.
which is good.
Now you got a whole
Yeah.
slew of fans. Yeah, that
Mhm.
exposure is good. Especially when you're coming out in the beginning like that, just getting it out there, just kind of and doing it because you love it versus the first thing is money. It'll go better.
Yeah, yeah. It was something that it it filled me, because I remember waking up every Sunday before my parents woke up, and I started drawing comic strips and all this stuff. I had a whole drawer made of comic strips and filled comic strips there, and just doing them this time for something professional or for something like that. I was so excited that I forgot to ask about money. So, but eventually, when I got paid, everything made sense. So,
Right.
and that's something actually that I had to develop in order to convince my family from allowing me to do this, because otherwise they wouldn't
Oh,
have. Once they realized that I could make money out of it, they didn't understand why or how. I know that I was bringing money to the house, so they
right.
just let me do it. It's like, okay, you're bringing money to this house, and it's okay. So it worked.
Yeah, as long as we got food. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
oh, as long as you do your homework and then you can do that afterwards, you're good. Like
Exactly.
your
Just
grades up.
don't be successful in school or whatever you're doing, but you bring money to the house, and that's fine. But
Yep. Like gets it out of the factory settings, and
mhm.
wow, like that's pretty cool. I did see online like your Lion King, like it's like, oh, it's my favorite. Like,
Yeah.
did you do anything with the Lion King that the new ones were like the little kids shows with the Simba and all that stuff,
Uh,
or
well, for promotions and stuff, yeah, but not the movie actually. I was, I think I was in college when the movie came out, and but I didn't work on that. Eventually, I ended up working in promotions and merchandise, but yeah.
that's pretty cool. And Roger Rabbit.
And Roger, yeah, of course, Roger.
Oh,
Roger
he's
was like the quintessential movie for me to make me realize that I needed to work on this. It was like
mm,
the definite thing, and when I saw it, I was like, okay, I have to continue working on this in this area. I cannot leave it behind. So
yeah. So was it easy to get into like the Disney being the storyboard and all that stuff, or was there a whole big old process to get into that, or
it
because
was a
it's
long road.
hard.
It was hard. It was a long road. It was a long road. Like my first professional gig was with Warner Brothers. Uh,
Okay.
I I uh, I applied for the Looney Tunes comics, and I remember I was going back to my family when we had to make groceries. We didn't have money to spend money on gas for
Mm,
the car, so we just needed to walk our way, and every and each one of us has to carry 4 bags back home. So we
right.
went to the supermarket, and we were waiting in line, and the line was very long, and I wanted to check the comics. So I asked my mother, "Okay, can I go check the comics? There's a Walgreens pharmacy on the other side." And he said, "Yeah, yeah, go ahead. This is gonna take a long time." I went there and I saw a Looney Tunes comic. I was, oh, they're making Looney Tunes comics. I didn't know this. And on the front page, it was something on the side that said, for submission guidelines, you know, you write us here, and we'll send you some guidelines, and you can send us some work back. I was, oh, that's fantastic. So
I have
I
to say
wrote.
submission again because it froze up. What was the submission guide?
Oh, they said the submission guidelines was, well, they were in the comic book on the lower part, and
Okay.
I had to send a letter to them so they can send me another letter back, telling me what they needed to see. So I sent them a letter, and I think a week or two, I got a letter back telling me exactly what they were looking for. So I started drawing, and I sent them a portfolio like this because
Oh,
I was very ignorant. I didn't know what to do. So I was like, they have a lot of characters. I'm gonna make Bugs Bunny. Oh, but maybe they're gonna ask me to draw Daffy, or maybe they're gonna ask me to go to Tasmanian Devil. So I drew all of them. I drew comics of all of them, and then sent them over there. I think a
right.
year or something passed, and after a year, they called me back, and they called me. It's in the afternoon. I think it was 5 o'clock. They were calling home. My father picked up the phone. There was this guy speaking in English. He didn't know English at all. And he was, I was the only one at home who understood English. And he was, hey, there's some guy here. He just mentioned your name, but he's talking in English. Here, go ahead. You pick it up. So I go there and say, I was, hey, we're trying to look for Dave Alvarez. I'm Peter Tuminello from Warner Brothers. I was like, what? So at first I thought it was my uncle playing a prank, but it wasn't. And eventually I was like, oh my goodness, oh yeah, yeah. And he was like, we love your portfolio. It was huge, and we want you to illustrate our comics. So that's good. So like, okay. I said, do you have a fax machine? I said, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to have a fax machine. So I was like, okay, give me a second. So, Dad, do you have a fax machine at work? And he said, yeah, why? Okay, yeah, I have a fax machine. So so, so they send they okay, give me the number and all stuff, and they were very picky. So eventually they said, no, it have to be yours. So
Uh,
I broke every penny that I earned from the print shop, and I went
mm,
to Radio Shack to buy a fax machine so they could send me the script. So I was okay. Just give me a couple of hours and I'll be ready. And he said, yes, of course. So one day I went to Radio Shack. I buy this fax machine. I go back home, plug it in there, try to follow all the instructions, just give them the number, and eventually I remember just looking at the machine like this when I saw the first paper that had the Warner Bros. Logo, and I was like, oh man. Oh, the script came along. It was an Animaniacs comic, the first one that I made. So they were happy with it, and they asked me and said, "Oh, if you want to stay?" I said, "Of course." What title will you want to work on? Then I thought, what do you guys have? And he said, we have Animaniacs, we have Looney Tunes, we have Scooby Doo, and we have the Flintstones. Which one do you want? And I said, you guys are Warner Brothers and you own the Looney Tunes. And if I want a long-term job, I want to stay with the Looney Tunes because Animaniacs is from Spielberg. So I
yeah.
want to stay with the Looney Tunes. So they put me in the Looney Tunes, and up to this day, I'm still illustrating those comics from time to time. So it has been whatever. I work on over 3,000, 300 comics already that I've done for them.
Wow, that's
But
amazing.
that was the beginning of everything.
That's like everybody's dream job is to do that kind of stuff, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Like,
it's yeah, it is. It's kind of it's a dream. You just start reality starts to hit you. That you have a responsibility that you have to. I remember an editor saying, you know, you are allowed to draw Bugs Bunny. Not everyone can do that. You're allowed to draw Bugs Bunny, but don't get that over your head. I said, okay, and then it's okay. It's a paying job, and I'm pretty aware of that. Yeah, but that was the start. Eventually, I moved to animation, but that's how I started.
yeah, so how does it feel to know that like kids, everybody's watching it and it's like a childhood, you're part of that childhood when they grow up. Like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is like, your drawings are something that taught the kids something or whatever. That's part of the learning or whatever it did, because I know the Animaniacs taught us
Mhm.
how to do the states, United States, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We remember it's like, oh, then 20 years later, we're still trying to sing that song, kind of thing. I know different people do, but it's like, how does that feel to be part of that culture?
It feels good, trying to make something significant and this. And I I have this small thing, that every time that I work in a project, I want it to be significant. I don't want to be on it
Mm,
just for being on it. I want something to be significant. When I was working on the Looney Tunes comics, I said, I saw this book. Yeah, but I want to, I'm gonna be careful with what I say. I remember saying that to the editor, but I know that we can do more. I know that we can be, you know, write more compelling stories. I know that we can eventually please some fan who that try to bring some characters that haven't been around for a good while. And the editor was very comprehensive, and she said, "Let's do it. Let's do it." So I have a lot of meetings with writers, and we brought a lot of obscure characters that weren't around, and brought it to the comics. And I remember she saying, "We are creating a strong fan base, and now the comics are starting to move." But it was funny because Warner Brothers per se wasn't supervising what what we were doing. The same thing happened with the
right.
original Looney Tunes back in the 40s and the 30s. That they made a lot of cartoons, but Leon Schlesinger, who was in charge, who wasn't paying attention. So He
Mm.
just knew that they were making money, but we they made all this fantastic shorts and everything. When we started doing the comics, we did the same thing. There were a lot of writers who are now
Mhm.
writing for Marvel, for DC, for movies and for everything. We all started very low and doing this very small, doing all this stuff. And but everyone put something significant in the comics, and that's fantastic. It doesn't hit you until now, when you start going to conventions and say, "Hey, I grew up with you," and I really, I didn't know that.
That old? Like,
Yeah, you
like,
start feeling like this old man, but
but it has to feel good though to know that they that's something that they remembered. That like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you know, and yeah, that's great. And like Disney, who did you do with Disney? Who was your favorite Disney?
Well, Disney. It was a while after I joined Warner Brothers Animation. My first
Mm,
gig in Warner Brothers was Trip to the Superdog, and I remember the director asking for me specifically in the comics. He called DC Comics was the one who was running the Looney Tunes comic. He called DC asking for me
mhm,
and see if I when I talked to him, I said, "Can you do storyboards?" And I said, "Of course, yeah." There's one thing that I learned in this thing is that you never say no because you're in a closed door. I have learned on the way saying yes, screwing things
right.
here and there, but having at least the basic knowledge of something, and then we'll go my way up. So I did the first storyboards there, and they were happy. They liked what they had. Then Spike Brand and Tony Cervoni called me for the Looney Tunes, and I was keep on moving. One thing that I learned after doing a lot of stuff for Warner Bros. Was that this industry is large, but it's small at the same time. Same people who were in Warner Bros. Eventually moved to Disney, and that's how
Hmm.
I went there. At some point they called me to draw some characters and stuff in Disney, and eventually move on to doing storyboards. I ended up what I'm doing right now, which is working on the merchandising stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's like some people you is there one lesson to be learned is there's no little guy. Some day you will meet someone who was your best buddy, or someone who was mistreated at some point in some company, and on the road you meet him in another company and he's in charge.
Oh.
You learn here is in charge, and that happened to me. Eventually I learned people. I met people who end up in Disney that they were in Warner Brothers and they were fired, and I'm sure like them there, or met them in Nickelodeon or in Netflix. So it's like we're a small family of people who keep meeting one another. So like every time I get into a production, I say, "Hey, you're there. Hey, how are you? Hey, it's been a long time." And I says, but it's like that. It's like that.
Wow. Yeah. That so did you said Netflix? Like so like they what do they do at Netflix?
There's there's a game slash cartoon that is called Cat Burglar. Cat Burglar, yeah. And they were looking. It's a game that you can play on television on Netflix, and they were looking for a designer that could mimic Tex Avery's style.
Okay.
So uh, they called me to do that, and it was a cool production. It took a while. They studied everything that had to do with Tex Avery, and eventually did this game, which I feel very good. It's still there. You can look it up.
Yeah, didn't know that existed. I looked all over Netflix for different movies and all that stuff and never knew that
Yeah,
existed. So that's good
yeah,
to know. Like,
yeah.
and have you touched any of the like the Toy Stories or anything like that? Or
Only in merchandise and not in movies per se. I know a lot of people from Pixar, and I know a lot of people that work there who are very good friends and stuff. No, but they work in computers. I am basically a 2D guy. working on in
Mhm.
cartoons. But I have met them. I met a lot of them.
Okay. So you were talk a lot about merchandising. What's the difference? How do you like, what's the process for that to, you just draw and then they just
Well, it's when you get
like the
a
difference?
the difference, okay, but you need to keep the characters unmodeled, and that's something that I have learned on the road as well. In the comics, you could work in your own style and stuff like that. But when you work on merchandise, you need to follow some guidelines. Mickey Mouse need to have his ears are not actually round shaped; they're ovals. There's
Mhm.
there are different kind of Mickey Mouse, and not every Mickey Mouse is the same. So you have to make something part of your vernacular, so you can actually try to notice what the difference between one character is and the other. And when it comes to merchandise, you need to keep those things in mind because the character has certain way of looking that it needs to be kept. So I do that for them for merchandise in the parks. I do them for promotions and for a card game that's called Disney Lorcana, which is it's being out in the market for quite a while, and I started illustrating cards for them. Now I'm doing a lot of what they call redlining, which is they have a lot of artists working, but they not necessarily master the look of the character uh, uh,
Okay.
in a professional way. So they can work to be, hey, can you do this Hercules, and can you fix this Mickey, or can you fix this online? And constantly, well, you're doing this and that, and give them over. So
Okay. Have you ever put anything in for your own character maybe to see if they'll pick it
uh,
up? Have you ever given
ah,
the like
yeah, I have had my characters. There was I did a comic strip that was for a long time. It wasn't Disney, but it was called Yanni. It's that comic strip ran from 2003 until 2012 on United Media Service, which is the syndication company that runs Garfield too. But I never
okay.
made it to newspapers. I only made it online. They have an online division and they have comic strips there. But I think that's the closest I've done everything with one of my characters. I've never done a formal pitch to Disney or to Warner's. I think I did once for one of my characters, but something that people don't know is that, for example, let's say that mm, Nickelodeon is interested in one of your characters and is interested in one of your concepts, but they have no room for you right now. So they're willing, we're gonna pay you a fee and you sell the rights. But the fee is so low that eventually you regret it in the future because they have this
Uh,
vault of ideas of people who have, sold their IPs just for a couple of bucks. And eventually they made the movies based on that idea, but you as an artist is are not compensated as you should because you
so
sold
it's
your idea.
so it's best to produce it on your own kind of thing and
It's best
go through
to
the hardship
negotiate it.
and that.
Yeah, it's best to negotiate it. Uh, I always say that if you're an artist, you're an artist. You're not a businessman. You have to become a businessman at some point. That doesn't make you a businessman per se. It's something that you learn also.
Right.
But if you get into this kind of situation, you have to look for an agent or agency that could negotiate those parts with you, so you can make a good deal. You know. But it happened to me. I'm not gonna say the company because it's, you know, I don't want to sound pretentious, but they were interested in one of my characters, and they call me in the middle of a meeting and say, "Hey, they say that they will give you $10,000 if you give them the idea, and they'll figure out what they can do with it in the future." And I said, "Are they going to call me in the future when they want to do something with it?" I said, "No, you're just gonna sell them the
Well, that sucks.
the concept." Yeah,
ten
for ten
thousand
thousand
dollars
dollars,
is that's a
ten
little
thousand
bit of
dollars.
money there. Yeah,
Yeah.
considering that they're, that if it goes out into the world and the world is like, yay, we're gonna do all the merchandise, buy it all to get compared to how much they're gonna be paid, like millions and millions of dollars. We're selling that for a lot more than 10,000. Like,
And
it's
then you will
like,
stay in your house like, oh man, that could have been mine, but
right.
yeah,
Like best
yes,
off
yes.
passing it.
So you need to be use wisdom in this kind of business, because sometimes people they get, oh, Disney wants my idea, or Nickelodeon wants my idea. I remember Nickelodeon was making these rounds around the world, uh, and at the end they ask you to pitch an idea, but
Hmm.
when you signed the papers, it said that their idea belonged to them once you pitched it. So
Right.
that's unfair. That's something that you want to live out of this. You'll be watching that. So maybe that's one of the reasons that what I have kept my ideas to myself, and I've been a little picky when I choose who I work with. So, but yeah,
Yeah, no, that's smart. That's really, really smart.
no, thank you. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, that's like a little nugget that everybody else could take because that is even in photography, we got that same issue. Some companies when they
Hmm.
buy it, they're like, oh, well, we're just gonna, it's our copyright. You know what I mean? Like, but we could sell you the photo, like, but we're gonna
Uh-huh.
want the money. You know what I mean? Like, nah. So it's kind of hard in that aspect as well in photography. So I get it, completely get it. So that's a smart way to go. So would you rather
Mhm.
maybe do you work with others to like write books or you know what I mean, like on a separate end um outside the company as well, like having a whole list of different things that you'll offer up to like, okay, well we'll do it this way to make a little bit of money kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do other stuff aside of that. So I, I always say it doesn't matter because I'm aware that I've done a lot of stuff for big companies with big names, but work is work. It's something that you cannot say. Something at the same time that I've done work for Disney, I have done some work for my community or something for a small publisher or something like that. Because you should measure the stuff because Disney's gonna do this, and then eventually this other guy needs help in a book. Uh, Sometimes I prefer helping the guy in the book, because he needs more help just to go ahead. They are already done, so this this one needs to go up.
Right.
Mhm.
So what was something you did in the community that you absolutely loved? Was there a favorite
And
in your community? Was there a favorite thing that you've
uh,
done?
I used to. It doesn't have anything to do with illustrations, but I've done a lot of theater and puppets. So being a Jim Henson
Oh,
fan, being I've done a lot of puppetry and stuff for local TV and community as well.
that's
It's
pretty
something,
cool.
yeah. We used to do this when I lived in Manatee. We used these Christmas shows, and there was a center that we used to use to make those presentations, and a lot of people in the community get around, and it was very good. I miss those. I miss those times from time to time. They were very good.
That's pretty cool. So you act and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, answer that.
Okay. Like, did you do that before or after you draw, or like that was just like a mesh of it?
What's a match of it? When I started in college, I like I mentioned, we were in a very wealthy family. So for some reason, uh, I couldn't apply to financial aids in the college. So I signed up for this theater group inside college, and they say, "Hey, you can study here as long as you help in the group and start making theater plays with us and stuff like that." that's how it went. I worked my bachelor's degree that way, just working on everything that I have to. I studied television and and cinematography, and I
Mm,
was doing theater on the side. I was, we were making theater plays for the communities and presentations and pantomime and all that kind of stuff. Uh, and it was very rewarding. So it was a very rewarding time.
yeah. So, um, dang, I just lost my thought. Like, um,
It happens.
yeah, it does. Like I definitely need to finish my half of a coffee, but I really don't want to. So let's go into Puerto Rico. What's Puerto Rico like?
Oh, Puerto Rico is a small island with big intentions. We are part of the United States. Some people doesn't realize that we are born Americans. We are American citizens, and it's funny because I have been fighting about that a lot in my career.
Mhm.
Uh, because at some point, I have to face racism and stuff like that. And people who doesn't understand that actually I am American.
Right,
And at some point when they hire me, I say, okay, we need to sign off some international paper. We're gonna send you to our international department. And I say, hey, I have a social security. I have a passport. I'm a American citizen. And he says,
right.
why? So why? Because we're Ricans are in the United States. So it it has been difficult and uh, making some companies try to understand that being laid off because of that. But it's part of being a Puerto Rican. But we're raised, that we're used to fight, so I don't give up that easy.
Yeah, yeah. No Puerto Rican does. Like that's
No,
for
no.
sure. That's yeah. They do. I'm like looking at them like, really? Are you sure? You sure you're from there? Like, or
Yeah.
uh, yeah, Alaska gets the same thing. They're like, oh, you're like even like on TikTok, right?
Mm,
I can even order from TikTok because oh, you got to change your address national. Seriously? Like we're America. We're USA. What in the it's like whatever. Just that kind of stuff and it's
yeah,
amazing.
I have to face that every day. So I totally hear you. I know.
Yeah. I was like, okay, but you guys are educated and then you guys want to tell us like really? Like did you not go to the United States map too? Like we had to learn that mess in the school. What in the same American school? Like
Hmm.
like
It's
where
an
where are
American
we
school.
where are we disconnecting at right here? Like, oh, I know we forget sometimes, but like seriously going into, oh, it's not. Like I get the
Exactly.
like what kind of currency do you use? Uh, I
It-
totally get it.
yeah, I know. I know. It's a they say they ask me the same thing. What's your currency? I said, US dollars. And I always get the same answer. Why? Because this is America. But yeah, it's difficult, but you know, I said before, it is what it is. So it's have to deal with that.
Yep, still gotta love the people. Just
Mhm.
it's amazing. Like, your book. Didn't you have a book?
I do. I have a couple of books actually. I have one of them is Koto Kotorra. This is
I
huh?
was he from back? Was he new? Because I mean, he looks familiar from back then.
He's new. He's new. Uh, I get that a lot
Yeah, he
because
looks another character.
my way of designing characters is like that. I have a director who worked with in Disney, and he was like looking at the character and has said, I have broken my head trying to figure out what I saw the character before. And when I saw it and I read the book and I said, no, that guy is new. And I say, how do you do it? When I created a character, I used a lot of aspects of characters that are already around or something, things that we are familiar with, like the gloves and, the colors and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And you some point think that you already know him, but no, it's new. No, it's
yeah, yeah, because he looked so familiar. I mean, back in the, I cannot, I know that face. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
What's he about?
it's about this guy who has a food truck and
Oh,
he's surrounded by crazy people. So he works in a small town and he has all these guys who are always with him, and they try to make his life miserable, and but he's just such a good guy. He just tried to help them instead of, they bring all these gigantic problems, and he doesn't know how to say no. So yeah, for
so
example, he
he's a
have
people
this
pleaser.
guy. He's a people pleaser, yeah. His chicken duck. He's the craziest guy
Uh,
around, and
uh,
best friend, but sometimes when he's around, he's just bringing around problems. So in this book, they had a problem finding out Bigfoot that eventually turns out to be this girl here.
uh,
And there are other stories here. It's a in this book you can find three stories. Uh, this is his uncle, is Uncle
uh,
Maceta.
uh,
Uncle Maceta, but that uncle is, you say, oh, it looks like Uncle Scrooge, but it's actually all all the country. He doesn't have money. He's just
uh,
looking for ways to make money,
right.
and he's always around with Kodo trying to figure out, I have this business that if we get together, we can, we can, make a great penny.
Oh, like that. I got a business idea every 2 seconds. That
Every
doesn't
two
make sense.
seconds, yeah. I have this idea right now, and eventually 2 seconds later, I have this other idea.
Right. So I'm like, can I
Yeah,
borrow some money? Like,
yeah. Always started the same way. Okay, I have this idea. Do you have a quarter? Give me
yep,
a quarter. And
I'll pay you back when once we make it big. I'll give
yeah,
you interest with it. Well,
interest. Yeah,
like, we'll
yeah,
get
that's
it.
true. And we
So
have
is
this
that in
other.
Spanish?
Hmm?
Are these in Spanish or English? Are they on both languages
Both.
or
Yeah, this was is in English. This
okay?
one is in English. You can find it on my webpage. It's in English, and this one is in Spanish and English. Both languages in the same book. So
Okay,
this
that's
is
pretty cool.
called The Legend of Gigantes. This is fresh new. It just came out a few weeks ago. So
Okay.
it's a storybook and a card game at the same time. It's about these
Okay.
little creatures that live in where else, Puerto Rico, and they were
Mhm.
raised by the Taínos of thousands of years ago. But it turns out they have this eccentric magical powers. Each creature has a power, a different powers. But there's one problem: they're savages. They're not easy to control, so they'll find a way of how to bond with them. So these creatures are in charge of keeping the island from a giant hurricane. There are four beasts called the Turias that if they get together, destructive hurricane will destroy the world. So they just gather around just to keep these guys in control. But there are other bad guys involved that has they are looking for them just to, since they are so powerful, so they can control
Right.
the world. Every bad guy needs to control the world. So this is a story for
Mhm.
kids. You can see it's in both languages. You can read it over to your kids.
That's pretty cool.
Uh, yeah, so but
That'd be
it's
great to teach kids the Spanish, a good way to teach them,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
a good thing.
having those kinds of books of different languages with the English as well, or so they can
Mm-hmm.
understand. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they can figure out. also available on my website and the game, which with this little packages inside. And the cards looks like this.
Like I
It's
said, Pokemon kind of. So how would you
it's
play that game? You know, like that.
well, kind of, but it's not. I try to stay away from that. My kids are very into all kind of games,
Mm,
and this is something that we were starting to develop years ago. And my wife, my kids, all started throwing around ideas, just to see what we can do. So I remember making the first cards. I printed out in my printer, and I brought my kids, and I say, "Can you play this?" And they said that the game sucked, so, so they fixed it. I said, "Okay, take each card and write on the back what do you need to be, why do you think it needs to be fixed." So we went around and fixed it, and we made we fixed the game, tried it again. They tried it with friends, and it worked. Uh,
wow.
the difference is that you don't have in Pokemon all these creatures fighting just because they put them to
Right.
fight one against the other. In this one, you need to bond with them. It's that they need to be fed. They need to be in a good mood with you, and need to be part of your group. So they can, and they don't fight against each other. They're just getting ready to fight the evil guys, which are the ones that I mentioned before. In
Right.
the meantime, you need to learn how to train them and stuff. So this is the first edition, which is called Zona Yunque here.
Okay.
And this is when you learn how to deal with them. Eventually, there will be another one in which the bad guys come, and you learn how to fight with them. So it's a progressive, and it's a story as well. So it's as you learn the story, you learn how to uh, deal with these guys. So,
Is that Spanish and English on there too?
yep,
Like the
both.
book where it's both oh, that's pretty
It
cool.
is. It is.
I
Then
don't
the
think I've
website
ever
is there. Hmm?
yeah, I don't think I've ever, unless I'm wrong, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do two languages on one, like on a game, kind of like that.
Oh
Is
yeah,
there
that's. Is there what?
is there something that so you might be the first person that does that two language
I don't
on a
know.
game?
I don't
Like
know.
I've never seen any. I might be wrong, but
If I
I've never
am, I
seen
need
it
it.
every time I play.
No, if I am, I might sign up for a Guinness record or something like that. I've done it.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't know. Maybe I
that'd be something to look into though. Like
am.
if
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
something to look into is to be the first person to do that quickly before somebody else does it. Like,
Yeah, before somebody else does it. Yeah.
yeah, well, shoot. Um, yeah. So, what websites is your stuff on?
Okay. You can find almost everything on my website. Is dascomics.com. That's D as in Dave, Alvarez, studio comics.com, dascomics.com. And you can find the Vegigantes in legendofvegigantes.com. It's in my website already. It's in
Already.
dascomics.com. So
Okay,
you
so I
can,
just one.
yeah,
Okay.
it has a link there that can take you there. But you can find everything over there.
Okay. And it'll ship out to internationally too, or just America?
No, it does as long as they pay for the shipment. But for the shipping, yeah, but yeah, it can
Okay.
be. Mhm.
A lot of people have issues with the international stuff trying to get shipped out, so I'm just
I
making
did. I
sure.
did. I did a lot because that changes a lot. Actually, I used
Yeah.
to. At first, I didn't care, so I was just making commissions for everybody around the world. I remember making this commission for someone in Italy, I think, and
Mm.
for whatever reason, shipping that commission to that guy was over $500, and I was like, "What?" And he said, "Can you cover that? Eventually, I will pay you back." And I said, "No, you pay for that. Oh, no, why? It's
Right.
because he wanted that to be a priority mail. He wanted some kind of special package. I went into those little troubles. So I want to make, whoever wants to make an order, just to be aware, there are costs that need to be sent for your country. So that it can be discussed.
Yeah. Okay. So is it on Amazon too, or they
No.
once it goes into the
No.
website, it goes straight to you, and then you
Yeah,
personally ship it?
I personally ship it. All this, I have my art book too, but the art book, I think I don't think I have any copies yet. But I made some personalization. I sent some illustrations on the inside. So sometimes if people just want it to be personalized, I can do it as well. So
And it has it in there where you can say, "Hey, I want an autograph," kind of thing.
I got a lot of those this past week because I published my art book and people were asking, "Hey, can you draw Kodo there? Or can you draw Yanni?" I said, "Oh, of course." So I just and can you dedicate it to whoever is this? So there's oh, here it is. The art of
Oh,
Dave
okay.
Alvarez. Yeah, this one
Pretty cool.
is on my webpage too. It has a lot of the stuff that I have done.
Oh, is that Tom and Jerry?
Yeah, Tom and Jerry. Those are
Oh,
some illustrations that I made for them because the crew that was working with the new Tom and Jerry cartoons, they weren't very
uh,
familiar with certain poses that make this cartoon iconic. So I helped them
wow,
by doing that.
that's
So,
pretty cool.
so that's the last stuff here. The Muppets. I
Oh
did
yeah,
a. Mhm. I did some comics for the Muppets. So there's a part of what I illustrate over there. But it's a compilation of everything. Everything is compiled here in this book. So
you should get them to bring Felix the cat back and like Betty Boop and all them.
You know, I almost did. I almost did. And there was this publisher who asked me who tapped me for a Felix the Cat return. He never came back to me. And eventually I saw the book and they drew Felix very weird. And I said, okay, I wasn't gonna fit that anyway. But they tapped me for that book and almost working there. Almost.
Yeah. See if we can revitalize some of those cartoons because a lot of us need those back, first of all. Like these new
Yeah,
cartoons, I don't know what they're like, but the old
I,
school stuff.
yeah. I always say that, to learn what people want, you need to be seated in the bleachers for a while and you can see what
Hmm.
everybody wants to see. People get these changes that nobody asked for and they're unnecessary. In my opinion, they're unnecessary.
Hmm.
One of them, for example, is Popeye. Popeye the sailor.
Oh yeah.
They are trying, they revamped it recently, but they're trying to take him, you know, take up away the pipe, take away the fighting, take away the tattoos, take away a lot of stuff. And they say, well, what are you doing? That's not Popeye, that's another guy. So
Oh yeah, the
they
new culture stuff that they
hmm
canceling all that extra.
yeah, but it's a minority when you come to see it, it's a minority but they do know how to handle the social media very well. And they make these riots because they want everything to be changed, everything to be different and all the stuff, and companies are falling for that. But I don't know why, because that as long as it doesn't represent a financial threat, they shouldn't do anything with that. But they just want to please everybody, and this cartoons change, which they don't need to be changed, and they create new cartoons that they take the funny out of them, so they're not funny anymore. They're not compelling anymore. And I don't know, but that's for another topic. So it's a long topic.
Yeah, but I mean it's a real topic though that
Hmm.
because it definitely changed over the years. Like my
It
kids had
changed.
SpongeBob, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, 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 we are no, that's not coming in the house. I mean, graphics are okay, but like, it's
Hmm.
just oh, what, what the heck? What happened to Bugs Bunny? And and Elmer Fudd and all of
Hmm.
them. Like, no, like Tom and Jerry, you didn't have to speak. We just knew exactly what they were gonna do, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, they never speak. It, it's they change those things. I don't know why, because it's like changing the soul of each character. Why do you need to change that? They're very worried about kids. We grew up with the Looney Tunes. They exploded stuff. They ate each other. They beat each other with a hammer or something like that. We're not doing that. We grew up and we're not doing that to other people. We knew it was a cartoon. Why
Right. The
kids
kids
today?
nowadays need that. Like now we're just like, look, and y'all need what we had back then. We were fine.
And we were
Yeah.
fine. We were fine.
Yeah.
If you see, they're airing some early Sesame Street episodes when we were kids, and you see the topics, and the topics are very complicated, and it's something that it didn't bother me. I'm okay with that, but time changes, and they need to kidify everything. They go and say, no, don't worry, and you have this. We just had kid shows, for example, when we were growing up, and now they have this kid just free kids shows until you go to YouTube, and now they have
Yep.
the first graphic for babies, and they eventually take you to whatever is happening right now.
Yep.
Times change, it's
Yeah.
oh, it happens.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't. I'm not sure if I like the change. I really am not sure. And like, I'm glad you mentioned Sesame Street, and then there's just Mr. Rogers' um,
Hmm.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
I When he passed, I mean, he touched on some subjects, especially back in his day. I was like, wow, like with
Hmm.
the racism, and all that stuff because they weren't allowed to have um
Hmm.
mix of races in there. But he was like, listen, you're my friend. Like, I'm okay. That's the stuff we need, right? But
That's good. That's something you need. That's something you need.
yeah,
And
uh,
he had an episode in which that he tried to touch that racism thing, and I remember, I think it was the mailman or somebody was
it
a
was
black a
sitting
black
there.
person, right?
Yeah,
And they
yeah, he
put
was
the
sitting
feet
there
in
with
it.
the pool
Mhm.
or something like that, wasn't it? He put him in a pool.
They put the feet in the pool or something like that together,
Yeah.
like that we were just pulling our feet here and we're together and we're fine. And that was Mr. Rogers,
Yep.
he taught us big lessons,
Yep.
and you don't need to kidify stuff. You don't need to cancel anything. You just need to learn how to live this world together.
Yeah. And that was in a time that where he was, it was the racism was I mean, it is a big deal now, but it was really a big deal back then too. So like even on TV,
Hmm.
you can't, it was segment. And he was just like, no, we're good. Like, sorry,
Yeah, for sure.
catches my but yeah, them and gosh, who was the other? Like it was, yeah, these kids. I don't know what. Sorry, my cat. I don't know where he got the zoomies from, but
No,
like, um,
mine is
we,
outside, so it's making rounds around the house because I know it's late
oh,
here, and eventually she wants inside. So
oh, yep. Mine. He's afraid of outside. We tried, didn't work. The other one, she's at grandma and grandpa's, and then my dog's at grandma and grandpa's, so he's by
oh,
himself. But he's
oh,
one of those Maine Coons,
hmm.
so he's really chill. But I don't know where that zoomie came from at all. but, but yeah,
Oh
he's
well.
yeah. Um, but yeah. So either way, uh, yeah, I wish they did more. I really do. Kind of change up the industry or bring something back. Um, like I
I
like that. What is it called? Where we were taught about that song. I'm just a bill, whatever, where they were doing a constitution or something like that on the, was it Warner Brothers that did that?
I think so. Yeah,
You
it
know what I'm
was.
talking about? Like back then,
Hmm.
that's what I looked forward to coming after school. Just a
Yeah,
regular old, like,
yeah. I think there's a. I I I think there's a huge need for that, but
mhm,
for some reason studios are not buying that. It is just going in the opposite way. But it's a need. There's a huge need, because those who are using social media, which are kids and many of them are very into anime. They're not into animation. They are not. Uh, they are the ones who are leading what studios are doing recently, but they are not necessarily what people need, what people want. People, I think, they have a the world needs, in my opinion, the world needs a big change. It did a few decades ago, and we had a lot of great shows, and we had a lot of stuff that eventually defined us. People are
mhm.
going back to the 80s because that was the last time when originality hit our screens. If
Yeah,
you start thinking about it, the 80s and the early 90s were the last time that anything original entered there. Now they're just trying to reboot everything, reboot and reboot, and trying to bring whatever magic was then again, and it's not happening because magic comes from originality. It comes from
mhm,
risk. It comes from you being trying to make a difference, and
right,
you all these heroes that eventually go with you for the rest of your life are those people who risk for something that they believe and you were with them at that time.
right.
Sesame Street did it for us at some point. Uh, um, all these cartoons eventually did it for us at some point, and I think that the audience is ready for that, but the studios are not giving them that. It's just playing safe. Just playing safe. Well, let's reboot this again. Let's make 18 parts to Toy Story. Let's reboot again the Tiny Toons. Let's reboot again. No, 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 no. Just you don't need to reboot anything. You just need to keep on walking and keep on bringing people that wants to bring fresh ideas and new things to whatever it is that is going on. But that
Yeah.
at
Or
some point, hmm,
maybe even getting the kids to write a story
yeah,
and
that's true.
submit that. You know what I mean? Because that's
Hmm.
the audience, right? So why not have a thing where the kids can write a story and then everybody can read it, like, and maybe animate them. And
That's a good
because
idea.
kids, they all have they're the originals. Like they have the imagination. Then they'll get their imagination going again. You know,
That's
learning
true.
how to they give because we used to have what those contests back then where it was on the cereal boxes and all that stuff. Like, oh,
Hmm.
well, if you submit this and da da da, you might win. Like, just the poems and all that stuff. But the kids lost
Yeah.
their imagination, maybe rebooting it that way, and then they can go into an original. But asking the kids to write
Yeah.
stories.
But, and that's something I try to, for at least for my kids, I want them to develop that. I want them to develop imagination and originality. Uh, and I have three kids. That's Kenneth, Aiden, and Matthew, and each one of them works in something different. The older kid is Kenneth. He has already a game that has been accepted by Nintendo recently, a couple of weeks ago, of
Oh,
an
that's awesome.
origin. Yeah, it's called the Bonnie Graveyard. If you go there, you will find that it's an original idea from him. And even my smallest one, Aiden, he just
Mhm.
wrote a book the other day. He sat down with his grandmother and wrote a complete storybook of something that came out from his mind. And I was like, this is amazing. Because
What?
yeah, and I see him sometimes. He takes the has an old cell phone that he just make movies out of it. He just tapes himself and hey, I'm Aiden. This is Aiden show. You know all this fantastic stuff, and then I have Matthew who creates all this fantastic art from
Mm,
making pixel art, and he creates these images that is something. How can he do that? You know, it's tough. It's imagination that is inside of them that
yeah,
you and as you say, you know, there are things that they want to see and they don't have it. And when you see
right.
them, this is exactly what they need. This is exactly what they're looking for, and they have this craving for original stuff, and they just don't get it. They don't get it, and who knows? Maybe it's up to us to fix that. You know, uh,
Yeah.
maybe
And
those
pay them and
I
not
can.
just and pay them. Like go do it.
Hmm. I lost you there. What was that? What was that?
I was saying just making sure that they get paid for their work. Whoever they choose to put
Hmm.
out everything, make sure that they just like they'll pay an adult, they're gonna pay that and they'll help the economy too to really put something out. It'll bring them without all
I.
that, you know, other
Hmm.
mess that they're doing now. But just, maybe having like a couple people, I don't know, just something, a contest, just making it a contest, and then the artist can do the little artwork or whatever, to come and help, like, you know what I mean, and just like really help them present it.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I I think that would be a great idea.
That would be a great idea, actually. Yeah, I think
It'll bring the
that will work.
company, it'll bring the company's character and integrity and all that stuff up into the forefront. Like, oh yeah, they're helping kids. Like that's a great idea.
Hmm.
So that'll help their business
Exactly.
to go positive light versus, oh, we're old
Mhm.
people. We're just gonna make sure we give out what we think that the audience needs. No, the audience
No,
wants
no,
to
no.
tell you what they, you know, make them
Exactly.
part of it, feel great, and they're like, oh my God, I was here, did this, and y'all should do this. Just open it up.
Hmm.
That's that would be kind of cool to see.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I always take my kids' opinion. It's very important for everything. Well, that's actually what this came from, you know, because when I was doing it, I just made the basic idea, and eventually when it fell into their hands, I saw what they needed because they say, okay, this first thing they think is Pokemon, but they said, oh, no, we're going to stay away from Pokemon and try to make something even larger because
mm,
we don't like these elements from for Pokemon, and we don't like these elements from Magic the Gathering. We don't like these elements from the, but we do like these elements. So we started picking up pieces, and eventually of everything that I learn and they write that they needed to see or they wanted to see or they wanted to play. And I think that's, as you say, this is something important that people need to take in mind. So keep in mind, you know, and studios need to keep in mind. Listen to
yeah,
people. Yeah, listen to
yep.
kids.
And in the meantime, you guys as artists can mentor the kids, and
Hmm.
teach them things on one-on-one, or whatever, to help them grow into um, whatever they're doing, so education as well. So it's really something that's get the
Yeah.
customer involved. Like get the
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
something I learned with social media. Find something that they like and get them involved. Don't just speak at them. Like really let them.
Let them be part of it. You know.
Yeah.
Oh well, have something there maybe. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I should be paid for making ideas. But dang. But no, that I want to see. Yeah, I would
Hmm.
love to see that for companies to do that to any company, really,
Yeah,
to help
that's true.
children
Hmm. Hmm.
um train their brains to be educated
Hmm.
versus being they're gonna be online, may as well just make a good use out of it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the kids can create an ABC things for the younger ones, for the babies, you know what I mean? Draw little things because they like that kind of stuff and do that.
Hmm.
Make an ABC book,
Hmm.
something. I don't know. Like
Yeah,
you know?
that will be interesting.
Yeah. I'm all right. I'm not gonna give out my ideas no more. But but yeah, no, that
Oh, it's freezing again. Are you there? I lost you. I lost you. Hello.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hi.
Hello again.
Uh, is there anything, any nuggets that you want to give out to the people on anything
Any nuggets? Any like thoughts you say?
teachable, inspirable, any nug? Yeah, like
I don't know. Maybe I'll say just don't give up. It's the road can be a little bumpy. Every road is, but eventually it's the your ability to drive on this bumpy road that will define your way eventually. So never give up. Just try to find your own voice in everything that you do. That's something that I tell everyone who asks me. So it's try to think all the time of how to think yourself as a brand. Keep your name clean. Do everything you need to do to associate your work with your name. So just don't do work for doing it. It's just something that needs to be, and whatever you do, just make it significant. Make it significant and make it worthwhile. That's what I say.
okay. Anybody or any tips on how to um with asking about money, like how to charge for your work? How do you do that?
Okay, that's it. That is a very particular subject, because like I mentioned before, I started by not asking for money. That was my first mistake. First thing that you gotta think is, do you want to make a living out of this, or you're just making this for fun? If you're making this for
Mhm.
fun, just charge whatever you feel like because you just want to make a couple of bucks and that's it. But if you want to make a living out of it, just start developing rates, developing, start to make conscious that as you're working, you're investing hours in whatever it is that you're doing. So you need to start thinking about hourly fees that you might need to do. So if you're if you want to work into this just to make a living out of it, you need
You've
to. Hmm?
you froze up. You
Oh,
froze up.
I'm here. I'm here.
So yep. So you said if you're, and then that was it.
Uh, if you're planning to make a living out of this, you need to develop. You need to think. For example, how much do you spend in a month? How much you spend in a month, and how much work can you handle? You know, to be honest, most of the time, not every job is a good paying job. You just need to take a couple of them. You just need to be capable of handling some 4, 5 of them some of the time, just to make a week's work of a salary, just the same way. But those are the things that you got to keep in mind when you start uh, thinking about how much would you charge. You want to make this so fun? You want to make a living out of it? It all depends.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we'll figure out how to make
Yeah,
a rate. So what's
exactly. There are many
so
elements that get into that, because if you're just making a rate, or you're a company that you need to uh, make a company out of yourself. You need to register as a company because, or maybe do business through an agency. There are many ways of doing this. So there are
Mhm.
many ways. I try them all, but it's yeah, but it's how you learn on this road. So it all depends on what you want to do.
Okay. So if you want to sell a product, say say if say if I do my cat. you know, just the paper. Like, so what would you charge? Like you charge like how what you paid for the paper, like a little bit of it, whatever you paid for the paper, the pen and the drawing, or like what's,
Yeah.
and then of course the hours, like how would you do that?
For example, let's take a thing about your cat because I remember I was no the many jobs I done. One of them was
Mm,
drawing pets on the weekends.
hmm.
I used to work on a dog training place then, and they called me on the weekends to make cartoons of like of dogs that were
Okay.
there, which is funny because you draw one Chihuahua, all of them are the same, but for people, you try to make them a little more appealing and say, okay, your Chihuahua, what does she likes? Oh, she likes to play with with her stuff. Uh, bear or something. Drew it with a bear, and the other one with just a tutu or something like that. But in order to make a rate for that, I took in consideration the gas that I was spending from my home to that place. And every
Okay.
time that I went there, I spent 40 bucks in gas because it was far from home. So every time I charge somebody, I charge 40 bucks because that's what it took me to get there. That's
Okay.
one example of how to figure out your rates because that's everything that I need. I need to get back home. So,
Right.
um, so if even if I had only one customer, that customer was gonna I was gonna be sure that I could get back home because I needed to get gas again and pay for tolls. So that's one way how to figure out rates and money on this kind of business out of necessity, just to say that. As you grow up, you have payments of
Okay.
house and stuff like that, so you need to consider all this stuff. So that's one thing.
Okay. So that's why stuff is quote unquote expensive, is because it has that other factor of it. It's not just the actual drawing itself, like a piece of paper. It's
Hmm.
like, it's
Yeah, exactly. And there's materials, of course, that you need to take in consideration. There is living cost, and there is your name, how much you're moving around. You don't want to be pretentious about it, but you say you have done this or that. I'm just charging you because you want me to draw this. You don't want my neighbor to do it. You want me to draw this. So I,
right.
I, I remember a friend telling to me, I said, you charge what you need to be, what you think is your worth. And those who don't want to pay it, it's because they don't realize how much are you worth. So, so that way you start. It's kind of a purge, because you start taking away people who are just making you waste your time, and
Hmm.
other people who do appreciate what you're doing and they want to pay you 40 bucks for drawing a pet or something. So it's it's like that.
Okay. So that's how, like, a person, if they painted a dot on a big old canvas, right? And they pay, and it's $1 million. So like, I can do the same thing. And like, you know what I mean? So it's mainly the worth of the person, who, how famous they are, kind of thing, or how.
It's how it is. It's, for example, you have some fees, and that
Right.
person wants to pay you for those and the first person who pays you for something, that and if you see that you have not only one person who pay you for your first fee, but you have a second and a third and a fourth person who who are okay by paying you that kind of fee, then that is your fee. So
Okay.
then you realize, okay, that is my fee because people are not complaining, but then somebody comes along and said, hey, I want to pay you something else, and hey, I can pay you less, and well, this is my rates.
Okay. That sounds like a plan. Like, that's always been the
Yeah.
hard thing to do, was to do those rates as an
Hmm.
artist kind of deal. When you go into your job, it's like, oh, you can pay $25 an hour. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
That's easy. But as an artist, you're like, oh gosh, like I don't even know. Like, what the heck am I charging for? And all that. And It's like, no, this is too
Mhm.
much for people. This is too little, but you're worth more. And then you got to go through, like you said, the gas and the, like you paid for all this materials. That's over
Mhm.
$300 right there just to, at this rate, and then you got to
Yeah.
charge an extra 400 just to on top of that or something, so it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
broke for a minute, but but the passion is still there and you're still going to utilize it and still stuck in your house kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that's how, that's kind of hard. But wow. Is there anything else that you want to give out to the public? Like that's on your heart?
Uh, I think I've said a lot, but if I'll be around if anybody needs some kind of advice or something like that, you can reach out through social media. Just look at me on my webpage, and I'll be glad to answer anything that you need to be answered. I hope I can give you a good answer.
Okay.
And you froze again.
Awesome.
There you are.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. But we thank you for coming on to the show and showing out your work, and definitely we want to purchase your kids' books too. So,
Thank you.
and
I
whatever
appreciate
else
it.
they do, just to, definitely support them with autographs, man. Like, but, you know,
Of course.
but yeah, yeah, definitely want to purchase those. But yeah, we thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.